Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Shop Stall Podcast. This is episode 1 of season 3, so brand new season, and we're pretty excited to be back on the show. So we've got Joey again. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Not too bad, thanks. Well, we'll get into that in a second.
We'll get to that.
And Brian, how's it going?
I'm good, Robin. I'm good. It's good to be back.
Yeah, man,
awesome.
it is good to be back. It's been a fair few months since we recorded the last show, and before we get too far into it, I just want to say to everyone who's left me messages. I don't know if you guys have had messages, but I've had
Yes.
a ton of people messaging me saying, "What's going on? Where's the shop still? When's the podcast coming back?" Yeah, really appreciate it. It's so cool to feel that kind of love. So I think what we're going to do tonight is just sort of, I guess, recap what's been going on, why we took the break, because a lot of stuff has happened in the break, which is why we took it in the first place, and then I guess we could just talk about what's coming up this year. So before we started recording, Brian, something's gone wrong with your knee.
It has, yeah. Yeah, it wasn't ideal, but on the flight home from New Zealand, I was lifting a bag and lifting it onto the scales at the airport and felt something pop in my knee.
No way.
Yeah, so I just assumed it was a bit of meniscus tear or something, and kind of like it swelled back down again. Or can something swell back down again? Went back down again, and I thought that was the end of it. And then I was really struggling through the whole of January to be able to bend my knee, which isn't really what a meniscus tear usually results in. So yeah, an MRI later, and I found out that I've broken the bottom of my femur off inside my kneecap.
Really?
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So
Just by lifting a bag?
well, so the surgeons were trying to understand what had happened, because they said it's something that they only see in either teenagers who have gone through a massive growth spurt. And I did have a few minor knee things when I was like 14, 15, but or pensioners. Like, so he said to see it, somebody of your age, when you haven't been involved in a car crash, and they said, "Oh, do you play sport?" And I said, "Yeah, I play quite a bit of soccer." And they said, "Oh, that'll
you're a soccer
explain it."
player, yeah.
But I haven't played since 2019, obviously. So whether the fracture had just been sitting there and the bone had never knitted properly, but yeah, the twist with the weight transfer over the top of it was enough to pop it out. So
Jeez.
I had to go in for an operation, not really knowing what they were going to do. So they told me if I woke up and there was a massive scar or a massive wound across my knee, it was a good thing. If there was just an arthroscopy, it was a bad thing, because it meant that they were going to leave it, and it would probably be a knee replacement. So yeah, I've just had a couple of pins put into the bone to try to pin it back up, but everything else was good. No ligament damage, no meniscus tears, so it's really just waiting it out and letting it heal properly. So no soccer for a year, and nothing impacty for a year.
Is it affecting you much in the shop?
I can't go to the shop. Like, I'm on crutches for 6 weeks.
Right,
Yeah.
okay,
Oh,
so
wow.
it's that much of an impact. Jeez.
Yeah, so 6 weeks on crutches, and then my quad has completely wasted to nothing. Like,
Wow.
the sort of analogy I've used is I look like a mannequin that's had the wrong leg attached.
Really?
just got this
In
one-
just a few weeks? Oh.
Yeah. Within 3 weeks, I spoke to a few physio friends of mine, and they said it's the quickest muscle to waste in the human body, but it's the quickest to build up again. So
Yeah,
got loads of exercise, and I can now tense it and feel as though there's something there. But yeah, it just went to nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a bit of a shitty start to the year, to be honest. Especially after all the enthusiasm of getting back and sort of Melbourne being COVID-free-ish.
And you've got work lined up.
Yeah, and I had work lined up, which had been clients. Yeah, we maybe get into that. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll get into it now. But yeah, I'd had a couple of jobs lined up in New Zealand, and with the understanding, I'm not going to be able to start on them until I get back in January. So there's a few months lead time, and then calling up a client and saying, "Oh, it's going to be another 2-3 months before you're getting your piece." And that was totally cool. So I lost a couple of jobs that way, which I completely get, but I've had a couple of jobs since that I've done design work in the build up to my operation and after the operation for friends, not clients, friends. And they've pulled the plug on it, like just by saying, like, I've designed 2 different dining tables for free, no design fee. So I wish I could go back to the episode where we discussed working for friends.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I gave myself some advice about not working for friends for no fee. So yeah, I designed 2 different dining tables for free and got a casual. Oh, we actually managed to find a dining table like further down the line. So it's been a very frustrating few weeks, like especially when that was kind of getting me through, like knowing that I was going to be making something that I really wanted to make for people that I really wanted to make it for, and then that's gone. But I've got a few decent enough jobs lined up for when I get out. But the problem is just being able to lift things.
Yeah.
So it's going to be
possible.
I've got a whole scale, so there'll be a jewelry box or a memory box at the start, and then a coffee table, and then a big built-in. So yeah, there'd be a few weeks for me to get back up to full steam. But yeah, it's basically going to cost me the whole first half of this year, I think.
Yeah, because it's not like you just stand around in a workshop.
No.
You walk hundreds and hundreds of steps, thousands of steps a day.
Yeah.
So
it was pretty funny. Like, so I wasn't allowed out of bed for the first 2 weeks of my operation. So I was literally just sitting in bed with a toddler.
So you couldn't even use your crutches to move around?
No, 0 weight.
What?
I could go to the bathroom and that was it.
Was that just in case you landed on it? You would
Because
just stuff
the
it
type
up?
of pins. Sorry, we're getting well away from woodworking, but it's at least construction. The type of pins that they use.
Some dowel joinery.
Yeah, they didn't use metal pins or titanium pins or whatever. They use a pin that's made out of cornstarch.
oh right.
So it dissolves after a year. So the idea is that there's very little head showing on the ball of your knee joint, so it wears the meniscus less. But the problem is, if you get up, they're quite brittle. So if you fracture that thing before the bone has started to nip back in, it's gonzo and it's game over, and full knee replacement. So yeah, when he told me that, I thought, yeah, I'll do the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just been a very slow, but it could have been far worse. Like if it had been an ACL or something like that, that really does take a full year to rehab from. Whereas like I'm able to cycle and swim as of the next couple of weeks. So it's really it's a shorter recovery time, but it's been pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So yeah, hats off to my wife for only wanting to kill me about, I reckon, 25 times. I think she's
A day?
Yeah, a day. Yeah. But no, it's just been it's been shit. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck on that. Jeez.
Cheers. Yeah. Chicks dig scars, though, right? Yeah.
Not when they're internal and you can't see them.
Oh no,
Then they
there's a
don't
good
count.
there's a good wee external one. Yeah.
Is it so?
Yeah, we'll be right. But yeah. Yeah, but you've got more exciting news than me, Robin. So why don't you tell us why we haven't been recording for the last 4 months or so?
Because to anyone listening out there, don't have 2 kids. No, I'm joking. That's a horrible way to start this off. Yeah. So the reason we stopped the show, well, we brought the show to a pause last year, was because I had a second child, a little boy, on the 10th of January. So little Grayson, he has been the perfect child. Now, to put in perspective, my first child, my daughter, she was difficult. She is still difficult. I got her into bed about 10 minutes before the show, which is an hour later than normal, just because that's what she does. Just on the night that I'm doing the podcast and we're starting it, she decides she doesn't want to go to bed. It's one of those things. This little man, since he was born, goes to bed at 7 or 8 o'clock and wakes up at 6 in the morning.
What?
No, right?
Unreal.
How stupid is that?
Unreal. And, we keep, waiting for the moment where he decides, actually, no, I'm going to be a baby and I'm going to wreck your sleep. Nope. He just sticks at it. It's just been crazy. He's been the polar opposite, super easy, super chill, which has made, number one, a lot easier to work with.
Man, I tell you what, I could do with some sleep right now, so that's not fair.
So weird. I put out an Instagram post probably about a month ago, I think was when we first tried to do the show.
Yeah.
And I said, we're back into recording. And then later that night, the wheels just fell off. And so to everyone who saw that post and thought the show was coming back and then it didn't, that's what happened. I had a screaming toddler, and what we did is we waited for the clocks to change, so now it's a bit easier to line everything up. So yeah,
Yes.
very minimal workshop time though. 2 kids, it's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. Even with a very relaxed dude. So yeah, just been doing some odd jobs here and there wherever I can. Because Joey, you're back into it, aren't you? Full
We
swing.
are busy.
Yeah, tell us what it's like to make furniture. We want to hear, Joey.
I know I'm getting a little. I'm so busy that I contemplated another employee, another full-time employee to do my job. So I would just essentially be a manager and just be drawing pictures all day. But I'm not sure that I actually want to do that. I've just been increasing my job queue timeline, and people are at the moment starting to walk away with a 3-month kind of lead time. But that's where we're at. We're booking end of June at the moment.
What type of work?
Everything. People are coming with full house lots, and that's what is.
Jeez. It seemed like the end of last year was all kitchens. That's all you were doing was kitchens and built-ins.
Yeah, and we're just finishing off a really big one, which was part of a house lot. I mean, when I say house lot, I've said it before, but I've never really meant it in the sense that now we're making every kind of cabinet in the house. It's the kitchen, the en-suites, bookcases, TV unit, so laundry units, and then all the kids' bedrooms, and then there's desks in all the bedrooms, and then.
Do you reckon? Are you pitching for those jobs, or is it that
No, these are old clients.
They're old clients, and are they coming to you because of supply issues with getting stuff into New Zealand, or is it that they've got a bit more disposable income and they want something better?
So I think what's happened here is because no one can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Everybody's spending their holiday money on their houses.
Yeah.
And it's across the board. Everybody's busy. Every contractor, builder, cabinet maker, everyone's just run off their feet to the point where, like, I think I even said it on one of the last episodes, but it was hard to get hinges and drawer runners and stuff and plywood, and it's got no better. And it's a bit difficult to know what's going to be on the shelves. I'm just quoting jobs, assuming things are going to be there, and when I get to the day to order materials and it's not there, I just got to ring the client up and say, we're changing to this because that's all that's available, and you can't complain because there's nothing available. There's no other choice.
Are there material shortages or just hardware?
Yeah.
Material like
plywood, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll ring my supplier every now and then. Oh yeah, we've got a pallet in. Oh no, we just sold it.
Yeah, must get snapped up so quick.
And so people who can hold stock, that's the new currency at the moment. If you've got room for stock, these bigger companies are buying up whatever it is by the container load. And so it means smaller people like me who have a reasonable size but no room for the stock. We just got to wait, take what's left on the shelves, which is fine. I'm used to. I'm pretty flexible. I can change how I make things, so I'm not too worried about that. I just quoted on another set of curved stairs.
Oh no!
Yeah.
You didn't learn your lesson.
No, I didn't. It was from the same
right
architect.
here, we should be inserting the audio from that episode.
Yeah.
With that very definitive quote where I'll never do this again.
It was the same architect, and during that first stair build, he had sent me this rough plan and said, could you do this? And I was like, yeah, I probably could. Here's a ballpark figure. And now the house is actually mostly built, and the owner who is doing the project management got in touch with me and said, can you come and have a look at this? Is it still this much? And I was like, well, that was never a quote, but that's a kind of a guideline, and went and had a look at the job. It's like double what I thought it would be. And so I priced it at the most expensive job I'd ever priced, and so haven't heard back. So I'm kind of glad because it's a huge job.
Is it drastically different design-wise than the...
Completely different. The only thing that's the same is that it's curved.
Yeah.
It's more traditional, but I have to do, in this one, I would have to build a 6 meter tall curved wall for a start, and then build the stairs into that wall and build a second curved wall to hold the inside of the stairs, and then do all the balustrading around the opening of the stairwell, and a whole lot of site work, which makes it more expensive. And yeah, I can do it, but I kind of don't really want to do it. So I just made it outrageously expensive. So if they do come back to me, then I will have to work out how to do it. But
that'd be crazy to do that again.
I've got another meeting tomorrow afternoon. I've got another meeting for another new build from a friend of one of my old clients, and that's another complete house lot, a whole kitchen, scullery, laundry area. And I'm getting more of these jobs where people, like and this one in particular, the lady wants a very French provincial look for all her cabinetry. So some molding work, but she doesn't want a beautiful lacquered finish, which is that's like all you can get from kitchen manufacturers. They just want to push you down pre-finished panels and lacquer. But she wants like hand painted. She wants distressing. She wants it to look a bit older than it probably should do. And I'm like, well, yeah, okay, I can do that. You don't have to have lacquer, but we'll talk through the ins and outs of it. But it's another huge job. It's probably 40 grand worth. So it's crazy that jobs that size are just walking in the door.
Have you done that distressed look before?
Yeah, I've done a lot of smaller pieces, not in such a large, especially this particular kitchen. I mean, and it's just massive walls of cabinetry and a big island, and it could be too much of one thing. So there's a certain amount of, I mean, I say that, but then also the alternative is that you walk in and you just see beautiful lacquered, perfect, pristine cabinets at the same time, and that's too much of one thing as well. So there's a bit of a balance.
The reason I ask is I did a project recently for a client where I did a whitewash finish, and it was the first time that I've ever done that, and I didn't realize how much finesse and art there is to it, because it's not a finish that you're trying to get solid and consistent. And this was a very simple project where it was a top and two legs, a simple whole table, very easy. But to get those three panels to match, to look close enough, doing a whole kitchen.
Yeah, where you've got to turn your head to actually see the texture.
Yeah.
Like,
you'd lose your mind because you'd touch up one and now I've got to go back and do everything again.
No, well, washing is quite different, and I don't think she's after a wash finish. I think I would talk anyone out of washing that much timber probably, because it's not easy. The thing I did learn about washing timber is that you really need to tell the client that, yes, we can do it. This is what some of my other things have done, or this is what a sample board looks like. But at the end of the day, this is you're asking for an artist's opinion of what looks good. And unless you're going to stand there on the day right next to me and say, put a little bit more on. Okay, quick, you've got 3 seconds before it dries. Now wipe it off. And no, a little bit more. No, a little bit less. And you just keep wiping it on and off until it looks just right. That's what you're paying like the maker to do. And it's not like putting on paint. It's like painting a picture. You're creating a texture. And you've got to trust yourself that, okay, I'll put enough on there and it looks good. I won't touch it now. And the client's got to be okay with the fact that you're making
it's such a subjective thing.
Exactly. And to have a client then come and say, oh, it's not enough paint on it. You're like, well, I didn't think so on the day, and I can't do much about that. And that's got to be either explained or written down when it comes to really art-based finishes, because it's very subjective to too much or too little paint goes on. So washing is very difficult.
I ended up sending this client a picture on Instagram to say, this is where I'm at. I think it's cool. Are you okay? But even a picture,
doesn't do it.
You can't get the look in the picture. Yeah. In this case, it worked out okay. It was very subtle, and it was going on Vic Ash, which is already a very pale timber. So it was very subtle. I thought it looked nice, but there was one point where I was sitting there going, they could hate this. and there's nothing I can do. I'm putting a clear coat over it. If they hate it, well, that's
Yeah.
it. Too bad.
I just recently did a little vanity for an old client, and she wanted a very old look. It was a French look, carved cabriolet legs, moldings on things. It was typical kind of French style piece of furniture to match some other pieces she had. But she wanted it was going to be painted, and then it was going to be to really look old. And she showed me some pictures of like dirt stained pieces of wood furniture. And so I like watched a couple of Adam Savage's videos, and I stopped thinking about painting a cabinet and started thinking about how do I finish a prop. And so I painted it with some awful green color, then put the color she wanted on top, and then I washed it with black paint and wiped all the black paint off, leaving the black in all the little nooks and crannies, make it look like it's been around for 100 years. And then I got a card scraper and just started hacking paint off the corners of stuff and chipping the back so you could see the other color underneath, so it looked like it had been painted once or twice before. And once I did that, clear coated the whole thing, and that was my piece. And it looked really good. It actually looked like it was at least 100 years old. And it's interesting getting to that point when you're making furniture where you're not making furniture anymore. You're just making, really is like props or art pieces. It's a strange business to be in.
Yeah.
I couldn't see Brian doing anything like that.
I'm always terrified. The subjectiveness of something like even just whitewashing, not distressing, but whitewashing terrifies me. Like the idea of bringing a piece to a client's home and them saying, oh, yeah, we really love it. And then a couple of days later getting an email going, it's not quite as white, or it's not white enough, or it's too white. Or, I actually had, when I came back from New Zealand, I had a ton of orders for end grain boards. So I spent about 4 weeks just working on end grain boards pretty much. And I did 4 big boards for one client, and he ordered them in September when I was in New Zealand. And he's like, yeah, I can wait. Delivered them to him, big ironbark boards, and he was so lovely, such a nice guy. And he's like, oh, I'm going to give them as gifts, and I just want to support local business. And I was like, that's amazing, thank you. And 2 days later, just this very vague email going, is it the natural finish of these boards? Like, is that what color they are? And I said, yeah, I don't use stain on any of my work. Yeah, that's the color it is. And he's like, oh, is there any way we can make it more blonde? I'm like,
oh God,
no. So I ended up, I don't know. I ended up taking them back, and it was like nearly. I know. I've been soft in 2021. I need to get hard.
Jeez.
But yeah, I took back like two and a half grand's worth of boards, and had to find buyers for them, and sent them. Like, got them sold, but now I have to make them 3 new boards.
Oh God.
Yeah. And that was
How did you get that?
like I know. He'd waited over 3 months, Joey, and he was genuinely a lovely bloke. He just didn't know what ironbark timber looked like, and I said, you've asked for ironbark timber.
Fuck's sake, Google it.
Yeah, I know. So that was what was that? 5 days before my operation that happened, and I'm like, oh my god.
God, yeah, well, all right.
Yeah.
Never again. Don't do that again.
I won't. I promise. Yeah, no more free jobs for friends. Gonna not take back any boards. But yeah, so that's another job I have when I get back. I forgot about that bugger.
Talking about end grain, do you guys run your end grain boards through your thicknesses?
I watched your video on this.
I do. I didn't used to. I had a big 40 mil or 50 mil diameter flattening bit on the router, and a sled and a jig, and I've seen people doing it online, and they seem to have much better success with it than me. And I don't know whether it's just the fact the timber that I'm working with is so hard and dense.
With the router bit?
With the router bit, I feel as though it doesn't want to stay flat, so it will ride up. And even if I then do like a reverse pass coming back over it, I'll just always have burn marks on it that there's just no belt sanding them out. And even if you're hitting
Is that
them
a
for,
solid? Is that a solid like carbide bit, or is
No.
it a bit with inserts?
it's not got inserts, but it's got teeth on it. So you can't do a straight plunge, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's probably got about 10 teeth on it, so you have to come in from the side. And I was doing like half mil passes or something.
Is it like eucalypt?
Yeah.
Because that's pretty high in sugar, isn't it? Like it burns pretty quick.
It is, yeah.
And
But-
like a big blade with lots of surface area is probably going to generate a bit too much heat.
But then the
Or
funny
that
thing
big bit.
is, you put it through the thicknesser, and it actually comes out really, really nice.
Oh yeah.
So when I was previously getting a bit of burn and you're belt sanding end grain, the problem is you're heating it up.
Yeah.
So it's starting to deform and warp all over the place. So yeah, I ended up making the boards quite a bit oversized. I think you glued something to prevent tear out on one end, did you?
Yeah, just put a strip of pine on the back end, so when
Yeah.
it came out, that's
So I just made them, I don't know, 30 mil longer than they needed to be. Because of the stagger in the boards that I did, they have to be trimmed anyway. And yeah, we used the jointer to get one side flat, which you could do in a thicknesser, I suppose, with a jig and glue and wedges. And it worked really, really well. Obviously,
none of them have exploded.
no, not at all. Because again, on the thicknesser, I know that the blades are parallel, so there is no sort of, there's very, very little sanding to take out. The only thing is you do get a slight indication of direction of the which way the cut's been fed in. So the boards that I make are bigger. I think the maximum I can put through my thicknesser is 320 mil or 280 or 320. I don't know, one of the jet combo machines.
Right.
So I was making the boards in two halves. And if you fed one half through the other way, then glued the boards and looked down them, it was like the fibers were sort of
It's
ever
slightly
so
bent.
slightly, and you wouldn't notice it until you sort of got down and looked at the light reflecting off it. So yeah, I ended up making very clear marks feed in this direction.
And so when you say the blades, are you is that one of the thicknesses with the 3 knobs?
I've got a helical head. So
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it's the main reason I'm asking is the feedback that I got in that video was most of it was interesting, but some of it was quite aggressive, where people were saying you shouldn't
Aggressive
be
people on
promoting
YouTube?
this. Yeah, no, go figure.
Huh?
You shouldn't be promoting this because this is dangerous. And you know, I've had a board explode, or I've had a board fly across the, and it was only after I put it out that I thought, actually, hang on, was this a silly thing to promote instead of it being more of an experiment? But the one thing that seemed to come up very often was the spiral or helical head seems to do the trick. The 3 knives, bad idea. That's where it's going to go wrong.
It's probably because there's always blade in contact. Like when it's
That's
spinning
full
at however many thousand RPM or whatever, there'll always be a point contacting the board that holds it in place. Whereas with 3 straight knives, you're going to get chatter.
I think there's just a lot more tension on the board. If you got a straight knife going all the way across it, if there's
big
any
impact.
weak point, it's going to find a weak point and it's going to split. I don't think I've hardly ever made any end-grain chopping boards.
Oh, you should, Joey. They're great to make. They're really
everyone's
fun.
doing it.
Yeah.
Give them away for free as well.
I think I would probably avoid it. I'd probably just do it. I'd probably just throw it through my thicknesser. But my thickness is not the best. I don't think a straight knife thicknesser would be great for it. But I'd do it anyway and just see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that dangerous. Even if it explodes,
don't think it's
just
dangerous
don't
at
stand
all.
behind it. If you think it's going to explode, just go next to it.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to go anywhere.
It's not something you even have to, like, by the time the rollers get it, it's not heavy enough that you're having to really push it into the thicknesser. Like you could step away from it and
I don't know. I think there's
Yeah.
lots of ways to skin the cat, and who cares?
yeah, I don't know. Trying to get it super flat otherwise is really, really hard if you're using a hard timber. But
yeah. So I actually did in my kitchen now, I made maybe you guys remember, probably 2 years ago, I made a really big chopping block. Like my bench top is like a butcher's block, and I made plywood essentially out of solid timber.
Yep.
And because it was too big to go through any machine I had, we CNC'd it flat. And as soon as it came off the bed, it turned into a banana.
Yep.
It did not like the flattening process. And I don't really understand what's going on there because it's, not sure why, but I had to just pull it flat when I screwed it onto my cabinet base. I just had to clamp it flat and screw it in place, and it started lifting slightly. If you really looked at it, you could tell it's not dead flat, but I don't really care. But it's just something that happens to big blocks of wood that are glued up. They don't want to stay flat, I don't think.
It's all about, I think it's the ratio as well about, obviously the smaller that you make your blocks up on and the end grain, the more stable it is. Because you get less movement, like less bend, like because you can alternate the grain pattern and stuff. But every time you're making something smaller, you're creating more waste. If you're making them down from larger stock of timber, every cut is 3 millimeters of sawdust. So you kind of got to really work on an optimum size that you're not wasting timber, but you're getting something that is quite stable, and as well the depth of the board. So I'll kind of start out with them at about 40 mil, and then by the time I've thicknessed them, sanded them, they're maybe down to about 37 mil, something like that.
That's quite thin.
It seems thin.
Yeah.
Mine's 100 mil thick.
Yeah. So I've got one on my bench here that is 5 years old, and it's still flat. I haven't had to adjust the feet, and I just say to clients, I'm like, if you leave it wet, it will warp. If you leave it in the sunshine, it will warp. If it warps a little bit, unscrew one of the feet, put a little washer, screw the foot back on. But end grain boards, you've always got to lift off the bench. When you see people,
sun's not good for stuff.
No.
Or dehumidifiers,
Yeah, dehumidifiers aren't good. I made this extension dining table out of Rimu from some guy's childhood house that got smashed down, and he got some studs out of it and made this dining table. We met his wife at this house or some bollocks. Anyway, he had his house renovated, and he put the dining table out on the deck.
Oh, no.
And the top cupped about 25 to 30 mil.
Oh.
Jeez. Just turned into a banana.
Could you salvage anything? Like, was there
He didn't tell me about it till well after the fact. And then when I went there for some other work, I was like, "Oh, how's the table going?" And he had all these weights sitting on it. I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" I'm just trying to flatten it back out, and it was almost flat. It was only had about 10 mil in it by the time I saw it. And he's like, "What can we do?" And I was like, "Well, nothing." You kind of baked it.
So I've got some exciting news.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing some work with Timbrecon over the coming months. They are reselling Pony Jorgensen. Is that how you say it?
The clamps?
The clamp, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're becoming the I think the sole reseller in Australia of the clamps, and they've reached out to a few of us YouTubers to be what they're calling a brand ambassador.
Yeah.
So I got a nice big heavy box in the mail a couple of days ago. So I'm going to be doing some unboxings, some projects with them. But I'm super excited about this. Firstly, obviously, it's always nice to work with local companies. But man, if there's anything you want to get sponsored, it's clamps, because that whole you can never have enough clamps. Absolutely. I've just gone out and bought myself some bar clamps. Just started working with bar clamps for the first time, and already I've found myself in situations where not enough. So very excited to be getting into this project.
I must say, if you are going to be sponsored, it's good to have the sponsor be in the country you're in and be able to actually ship you the stuff. Because midway through last year, sometime, because we were back working at full pace, I had a company offer me a full CNC machine, and all they wanted was to have it seen in the odd video. And they were going to give me a whole this giant heavy Russian thing, and ended up signing paperwork and everything. It was coming, and then I get the email saying, Do you know how we can get it to you from Russia?
Do you know anybody flying that can carry it for you?
And then I've just gone completely off the radar.
You're kidding me.
Just can't get me anything. So
They can't get you a big diesel-powered Russian CNC, no?
No,
Oh, nightmare.
it's pretty funny. One of those things.
How's the YouTube thing going, Joe?
Oh God. What's the time? How much time have we got? I don't know. I am struggling with. I'm struggling with the whole idea of like I like making videos. I think I still enjoy that. I've got a video sitting on my camera, waiting to be edited. Which, by the way, I got a brand new camera rig, so all those people who complain can stop complaining about my camera.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm with those people. Your video quality is it's pretty 2010.
Yeah, man. That's when I bought the camera. And now it's dead.
Joey, I think they look retro. I think they're very cool. Don't listen to Robin and his fancy gear.
I'm just, I'm so fed up with. I kind of understand it on YouTube to a degree. I feel like the amount of advertising on YouTube has just gone to this
rocketed,
whole new level of unwatchable. And the last thing, I haven't done it yet. I still haven't made up my mind, but I'm probably just going to pull all advertising off my channel and anything. That's why I haven't done anything on Instagram. I'm just sick of looking at ads. Every second picture on Instagram is an ad for something, whether it's just a legitimate paid advertisement or just Joe Blogs Woodworker saying, "Hey, Titebond does really good glue, and Makita, I really like your tools." I'm just sick of everything is just an advert, and it's generally not even targeted at me. It's the person posting who's trying to get free shit. And it's like, I've been struggling with this thing with like, what is the point now? What is the point in social media? Because
it's become inundated. Everyone's selling, no one's buying. So it just feels like we're all just selling to each other. Yeah.
And I think just in the last day, I just realized that what I hate about YouTube advertising and Instagram advertising is that they're two platforms. Well, I think all platforms focused on followers, but it seems they're the two I'm really familiar with. It's like, you have to get followers, grow whoever's following you for whatever reason. No one's explained that to me yet. But all you're doing is making those followers look at your ads more. And do you really want to be just pushing your adverts on...
Well, pushing somebody else's adverts,
Yeah,
for free.
on the people that you want to follow you, and hey, everybody follow me and look at my ads.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what they're saying. And I'm just like...
you do have some entertaining content to go along with it.
Yes,
hopefully.
and there's definitely... And that's what I've been struggling with. Like, there are legitimate posts where you go, hey, that is a good idea. That person has thought about that, and I'd like to sit and mull that over. And then the very next post is trying to sell me some pair of electronic X-ray specs. And it's like, it's worse than watching old-fashioned TV at this point. You might as well just watch 5 minutes of ads and then 10 minutes of program. That seems a better deal.
Joey, I don't know. I've watched TV in New Zealand, and you're watching 20 minutes of ads for 2 minutes of TV.
Yeah, you're right. I haven't actually watched that kind of TV for probably 10 years, but. So like my whole social media internet presence, I've just been like, is this even worth my time? Like, why? And so again, YouTube, I'm like, yeah, I like doing it. But so take this for example. When I started YouTube, it was like 7 years ago. The general kind of feel amongst woodworkers was. It seemed like people were like, how can I upgrade my skills so I can stop working my 9 to 5 and start being a woodworker for my job? And that was it. And now look where the woodworking world is. It's how can I sell advertising on my YouTube channel so I don't have to be a woodworker or work on my 9 to 5 job?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's really just content creation posing as woodworking.
Yeah, that's true.
It's more about the posts and the sponsorship deals than it is about... And if you happen to make something that 200,000 people watch in the first day, then it's good for you. Like,
Well, again, that's I still believe that's just a part of it, though. There's you will still have the organic reaction and growth if you are presenting something entertaining. And because there's so many people that I see on Instagram and YouTube, and personally, I believe this is a mistake. But this is only personal, and I'm not massively successful. So take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But when I see smaller channels promoting I think it's Starbond, the CA glue.
Right.
Heaps and heaps of smaller channels promoting Starbond. What you don't realize is that you are assigning yourself, or you're aligning with the brand that has become so diluted at this stage that your image is being adjusted so heavily because of that. If Samsung sponsors you, everyone goes, wow, this guy's sponsored by Samsung. That's amazing. So it's almost like because there's been such an inundation of all these people wanting to sponsor other people, as a content creator, you need to be clever and say, I'm not going to go with them just because it's free stuff, because that doesn't improve my brand.
So what is the deal with it? Like a CA glue, like how many years worth of supply are they giving them, or how much are they paying them to promote a CA glue?
I'm not sure what it is. I was contacted by one years ago, and it was just CA glue was not something that I ever used. And still today, that company I see occasionally, I won't say who it was, but I see smaller creators going with them. And it's almost has this feeling like it's never really elevated from there.
Yeah. I had a point I was going to make before, and I forgot what I was going to say.
It is a tough, like with endorsements and things. Like I'm obviously, I think I've got 3 YouTube videos, so I'm only about 600 behind Joey. But the offers that I get from sponsors are just bizarre. I have like cigar companies contacting me. I had a Russian power tool manufacturer. It might have been your mob, Joey, in Moscow. Yeah. But they're trying to say, are we aligned with like the quality and the bespoke nature?
Yeah.
And I looked at their tools and I'm like, do you? Really? Like, you're selling a circular saw for 40 euros?
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, it's always a strange one. I got one last week from a Japanese knife company that were trying to get me into some fruit carving competition.
Oh, good.
It was bizarre.
Natural progression.
Man. Absolutely bizarre. So I don't know. I'm just waiting for the call from that CA glue company so I can retire.
It's so crazy that I get at the moment I'm getting hounded by these guys who are trying to start some kind of YouTube based fans, like OnlyFans thing for woodworkers, where they can chat direct to you and you can give them free personalized advice. And it's like,
is it clothes on or clothes off, Joey?
Oh well, I haven't delved into the paperwork.
Okay, all right.
I'll do clothes off.
Where they get you.
I'll sell out. But yeah, it's just complete. Like, every day, it's like, how can we make money off what you're doing? And I understand, like, especially at the start, I think there was an absolute need for people who had a decent idea of what they were doing in the workshop to show their techniques on YouTube. And that's all gone out the window, it seems, in the last year. And the problem is that it makes perfect sense at the moment for the rest of the world to be focusing on ad revenue from YouTube, because a lot of people can't do their regular jobs. Mm-hmm. And it makes perfect sense that people are just spamming the ads. Because I don't know if it's still the same way, but I'm pretty sure you can just, when you upload a video, you can put as many ads on it as you like. And you can have ads every 30 seconds if you want. You're not going to get much views, but I've seen videos like that, especially kids' videos.
Yeah.
And then YouTube are hoping that you get fed up and then sign up to a premium.
Well, yeah. I don't know. So that's a big dilemma for me at the moment, because I realise the majority of the world needs to be getting revenue from something, but like I can barely watch YouTube at the moment because it's so crowded with advertising. Not even I think the biggest problem is, like, sometimes YouTube will just put their one ad at the front. And if you're a reasonable creator, you've just got like one advert at the start of your video. But then in that, if you look at a video from like the Hacksmith Industries lately, you're looking at like a 15-minute video with like 9 minutes of ads built into it, and it's just not watchable.
Would you look at switching to a different platform, like a different video platform, or Vimeo, or something? I don't know.
I'm at the point where I could just go, delete the channel, because
who do you primarily like? What is your reason for making the videos? Is it because you like something to reflect back on, or is it to inspire people, to get the odd client?
I feel like we talked about this once and I didn't have a good answer. I feel like after thinking about it for a week, it was that there was an actual genuine need. Like I said before, people were trying to get to the point where you are woodworking for your job and not doing a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was in a position where I was already there. 7 years ago, I was already woodworking for my job, and I thought I was in a good position to give people advice in some way or form.
Yep.
And I feel like now that's not even a focus. People don't want to be woodworkers for a job because, and I've actually heard well-known woodworkers say, don't do it, it's too much of a hustle, and you're better off trying to sell content in some way, like plans and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, is there any point in making good old-fashioned how-to woodworking videos? Because it seems like everyone's just in it. They just want to see like the giant ball fall off the tower and explode on a car. Like that's what people want to see.
But at the same time, you see like woodworking classes, like the uptake in woodworking classes, like physical classes that you attend, are at an all-time high in Australia. Like all the courses are filled.
Yeah,
so I think that's similar here.
Yeah,
I think it's a similar thing. People are more interested in that, but I feel like I don't know. I'd love to know what the swell of woodworking channels is now compared to 7 years ago. Like it must be off the charts. So I think there's too much choice.
Yep.
Anyway, it's just my personal dilemma of like, I can't be bothered with social media anymore because I can't be bothered just being like, open the phone and just ads. Like why do that to yourself? So I just haven't touched Instagram for like 2 months.
Yeah. I kind of let my Instagram sitting a bit. Obviously, I haven't had much work to post on it, but I did a little bit of work tweaking. I'd never really used stories, like saved Instagram stories.
Right.
And I kind of thought maybe I should be using those as a folio, something that's like a sticky, like it's right up the top of my feed. So I spent a bit of time when I was laid up in bed working on that I thought if I send a client to my Instagram, they see that you have followers, they see that people engage with your work, but you're able to actually control the first thing they see, which are the folios and the stories of the project and things like that. But in terms of really posting on a daily basis and trying to tell your story of how you work, like who are you doing it for? You're doing it for other woodworkers, like you're doing it for...
Well, yeah, I feel like I wanted to ask you guys, like, what do you actually get out of using, say, Instagram? Because I'm familiar with it. It seems to me the only thing I actually really get out of it is going, oh, I got a few hearts. That feels good.
I do it for the community. Like, I think especially I'm in quite a big city, but I'm very lucky that there is a really close-knit group of woodworkers in Melbourne, and connecting to people on that, both on your feed and in private messages, like it definitely makes my life, the fact that I'm in the workshop by myself 80% of the time, having a network that you're able to talk to. If you've had a shitty day, if you don't know how to do something, if you've got a nightmare client, you've got somebody that knows what it's like to go through that. Like when you get on your couch and have to vent about clients that want doors moved and kitchen doors rehung. But it's a similar thing. So I think that's a real positive of social media. Like, I'm not sure whether you guys were aware, but there was a maker in Melbourne who had moved to a new workshop, had spent months fitting out this workshop, was a week away from operating, had all the tools in, and they got burgled January, and they couldn't work out whether it was somebody who had seen them moving in. There was no signs of forced entry, so the insurance company didn't cover it, and they're thinking, we spent all our money fitting out this, like, what the hell do we do? And they started a Just Giving or donations thing, trying to recover, I think it was about $16,000 or $17,000 worth of power tools and hand tools that they had stolen. Yes. I think they ended up getting 20 grand within a week.
Wow.
And you see all the other makers sharing it. So there's things like that without social media, like, what kind of position is that person left in? So in terms of community, I do really still value I can put all the shit away and just forget about that to still get that one positive out of it.
It seems like what you just said, that's what social media should be for.
Yep. To be social.
Yeah, and to be, like, kind.
Yeah.
But it just seems like all you see is the opposite of that.
Yep.
And because you can't go around advertising that you had this cool story, because it just doesn't work quite like that.
Yep.
But all you see is, like I say, I feel like all you see is the opposite of that story, and it makes me want to just turn away from it.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny even when you say about, like, being kind, because platforms like YouTube are obviously not kind. Instagram is a little bit softer, but
I think from my experience, Instagram is one of the most positive places. But again, I think that's because you tend to get wrapped in your little bubble.
Probably, yeah. It's just an echo chamber, isn't it?
It could be, yeah.
But I find that the community side of things, when I'm able to direct message people about projects, if I'm looking for an honest answer, I'll get an honest answer. And that takes me back to sort of the days in architecture school where things were harsh, like really harsh. There was no sugarcoating, there was no tap like it was tough love. And you always ended up, albeit it was a tough route to go down, but you ended up with better projects at the end. And I find that I've used social media to a point where I can build those relationships, where I can get true, honest answers from people. So yeah, you can get all the love hearts on your feed, but then there is a side to it that if you're looking for it, you can really use it proactively as well.
Yeah, I see. It seems like in the States, at least, people use Instagram as that's their kind of website for gaining jobs.
Yeah.
And it seems a bit more like that in Australia, I feel like, because here, I've probably got maybe 2 jobs that I know of through Instagram. And it's interesting. I'd like to, I'm not sure if it's meant to be based on followers. I mean, is that why you should grow more followers? Because somehow you might get more jobs from it. I've got, I think, somewhere around 8,000 followers on Instagram. And out of that, I get maybe 2 jobs. I mean, is it even worth that hassle?
Yeah, I don't get that much work from Instagram.
Yeah.
I've said it a million times before, but the clients, I reckon they'll usually find my website or find an online article or something like that, will then go to my Instagram as a 3rd or 4th point of contact and look at it. And so long as it looks credible and, there's photos of me working and time lapses and some camera stuff, but just a little bit that reflects the personality behind the business. It's not just all sort of white backdrop.
Yeah, I'm with
furniture
you.
shops.
I love being able to send just send a link to my client and say, here's something on my Instagram that we made that's really similar to what you're after. What do you think? And same with YouTube. I often just say, go look at my YouTube. And for me, that's a bigger asset at the moment, just having a library of online content where I can send people who are actually interested in spending money with me. I'd rather do that than care, actually, if it's, I probably at this stage, I could put all my videos to private so no one can see them until I send them a link, because it's just like, pointless.
It's hard. It's like, had you considered any sort of Patreon-y thing or putting anything behind a paywall or?
I don't want to get paid for it.
Yeah, but you don't want
Like-
other people to get paid for
No, well,
your
that's
work
it.
either. Yeah,
That's it, because that's the dilemma. Because I understand, especially now that people need to be making money if they can't go to their
Yeah.
real jobs in most of the world. All three of us are in a position where we can mostly work without hassle of quarantining bollocks. So, to me, I'm not sure where I stand on advertising at all. Like, I understand people need to make money, but it seems like we're like reached some critical mass where like advertising is just insanity online.
But I think as well, you're also looking at it from a if you're looking at it as a how-to platform, that's a very holistic and maybe even a naive way of looking at it. Because you're right, that is how it started, but there's also a big group of people who just want to be entertained. I do want to see what happens when that giant ball falls
Yeah.
off the damn wall and hits the car, because that's cool. You know, who doesn't want to see that?
Oh, it's not like I don't watch that.
so-
It's just that's what everyone wants to watch.
So yeah, you got to sort of be careful of associating the two together, because they're very different
Sure, yeah,
content.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's just a strange thing. Like I say, it was this weird personal dilemma of being trying to work out what am I doing? Should I even bother with the time I spend on those things, or should I just plow on ahead like I did 7 years ago when no one knew who I was?
Yeah. So what's the video? in the
I've
can?
got so the last video was like a tips and tricks on how to do a big built-in wardrobe, and I did a follow up with a built-in TV unit. So there's a few different aspects to TV, kind of TV bookshelf type things. So I've got that ready to edit. I have no motivation to edit it.
Yeah. I'm busy working on a pendant light for my
yeah. We saw
hallway.
the curve. Is it bent lamp?
So I had this whole big, because this is potentially going to go out to be put on a client's channel. I had this whole idea, and I pitched it to them, where I'm going to be steam bending this curve, cut these tiny little 2mm strips of Vic Ash, and then just put them onto the clamp, and there was no steam bending required, because it was going to be all about steam bending. But anyway, there was no need for that, so it's just two very thin strips glued together, and it's held the shape. So it's two octagons on either end, and then there's 3 strips on each edge that curve like a little S bend. And I put the first picture up, and within a couple of minutes I had a like from Duncan Meerding.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And internally I just went, yeah, I made it. Duncan likes my light fixture. I'm done.
That's cool.
Yeah, so looking forward to finishing that one.
Yeah, awesome. And so, Brian, you're just not doing anything for the next week or 6?
I've just finished. Last year, I was working on a crib for a client, and he saw my crib that I did for my son, and was asking me if I'd be interested to help him get his project off the ground. So he's hoping to get them manufactured, whether it happens in Australia or overseas. So I built 2 different prototypes of headboard for him with some fairly complex joinery that I haven't been able to share because of a confidentiality agreement, unfortunately.
Ooh.
But
Interesting.
yeah, so I've just been documenting that. So I finished, I don't know, a good 40 hours of documentation on that set, which is good. So that's done. I was also Adam Markowitz. I don't know whether you saw his posts about the big kind of vertical piece that he ebonized.
What was that?
It was pretty cool. It was for Melbourne Design Week. There was a group of makers approached to put a piece in different shop fronts around the city to sort of create this trail of artifacts.
Right.
And his idea was that it was going to be used to show different techniques and how a maker's hand is different across various makers. So that row of carved, kind of scalloped carving that he had, I think he used maybe 10 different makers or something, and had them come to his workshop and carve a section. And it was about a week, no, it must have been longer than a week, maybe 2 weeks after my operation. And literally the first day that I'd been standing up, and he said, "Oh, what are you doing? I'm coming around." So he came around with it set up in the back of his van, and I carved my section of it.
That picture.
Nearly passed out afterwards, but yeah, it was pretty cool. And then he ebonized it.
Cool.
Yeah, I think he used the same technique that Laura McCusker was saying about the powder. So
Yeah. What's it called?
yeah, that stuff. Yeah,
Tannin?
yeah, it's
No?
got tannins in it, but I can't remember what it was called.
Was it the oxalic acid?
I think that's the one. Very good. Yep.
That sounds familiar.
So yeah, it was cherry, and it went black. So
Wow.
yeah, that finished being exhibited yesterday, the day before, I think. But yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Cool.
But yeah, very much looking forward to getting back in the workshop.
So I reckon we'll call it there because that's been an hour. We're going to be doing fortnightly episodes again.
Yep.
So we'll get them out to iTunes as soon as possible. We're looking at putting some guests on. We've already been in discussion about a certain someone. I won't give it away, which she looks pretty cool.
Yep.
So that'll be pretty cool. And yeah, it's great to be back.
Yeah.
Stoked to be doing the podcast again. The break turned out to be way longer than expected. So yeah.
Yeah, don't be having any more kids for a wee while, Robin, okay?
Oi, after tonight. Can I return them? Can I give them back?
Just got to get the old chop.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I guess we'll leave it there. So if you enjoyed the show, please give us a rating on iTunes. It really does help us out. Shopstall Podcast is available on most podcasting apps. Joey and Brian, thanks again for hanging out, and we will see you guys in the next one.
See ya.
Cheers, guys.